glucagon-like peptide 1 agonist. That's a mouthful. Well, you know what? That substance may make us feel like we've eaten a mouthful and don't want to eat any more. You know that in North America, and in fact in the world today, we're dealing with an epidemic of overweight. And that is a big problem because overweight is a risk factor for diabetes, heart disease, and certain forms of cancer. So of course the search is on to find perhaps some medication that will cut down the appetite and lead to weight loss. Well, back in the 1970s, an interesting discovery was made. Whenever we eat food and it hits the small intestine, a chemical is released from the small intestine that goes to the pancreas, tells it to secrete some digestive juices, and also to secrete some insulin to deal with the sugar that is then flooding the bloodstream, because insulin is the cell's gatekeeper for glucose. It says, let me in so that I can use glucose and convert it into some energy. Well, glucagon-like peptide 1 is a chemical that is released from the intestine and sends a message to the pancreas. And this is a hormone. Hormones are chemical messengers, and the pancreas gets this message to start secreting insulin. Of course, this means that it is a potential treatment for diabetes, and that caused some excitement, but it also turned out that it caused a control of the appetite. It turns out that when this chemical is released, our appetite goes down. There's one problem here, though, that although that chemical can be made in the laboratory synthetically because it's just a chain of amino acids, it doesn't last long in the bloodstream. It gets broken down. And this is where an interesting discovery was made in 1993 by a doctor named John Eng in the United States. And it all dealt with the saliva secreted by the Gila monster. Well, it's not actually a monster, it's a lizard. It lives in Arizona and New Mexico, and chemists have been interested in its toxins, particularly secreted in the saliva. Well, it turns out that it secretes a chemical in its saliva that is very similar to glucagon-like peptide 1. And interesting enough, when it goes into the bloodstream, it does not get degraded so easily. So this was a key. And indeed, the first drug in this line of glucagon-like 1 peptide agonists was introduced, and it was successful. It was a synthetic version of a toxin found in the saliva of the Gila monster, and it was used as a treatment for type 2 diabetes, and it was eventually approved also for the treatment of weight control. And then the search was on to find even better versions of this, and there have been a number of such versions, and the one that you've heard about is semaglutide, and what is that? It's Ozempic. That's what all these TV commercials tell us to ask our doctors about. So indeed, this is a chemical that does curb the appetite, and in clinical trials, it has caused weight loss. But, as you may expect, there is a but. It's very expensive, costs about $1,000 for a month, and you have to use it continuously, because if you stop using it, the appetite comes back. So we will see where this ends up, because there are side effects. Many patients say that they become nauseous when they are using it and they give it up. So we will see how this pans out. The search for the Holy Grail, of course, is on. Chemical that will control weight. I don't think that we have made a giant leap with Ozempic, but I think we have taken a small step towards finding a substance that can effectively control weight in the long run. But it's a question of wait and see. We don't know long-term consequences, because the fact is that you only know long-term consequences once a long-term has passed. But maybe we have taken a step towards controlling this problem and winning a battle against the battle of the bulge.